Stop hiding your vulnerability. Here's why it's empowering. We live in a world that tells us to be strong, to be tough, to never show weakness, to never let anyone see our fears, our doubts, our insecurities. From the time we are children, we are conditioned to believe that vulnerability is something to be hidden, something to be ashamed of. We admire those who seem invincible, those who never falter, never break, never reveal even a glimpse of uncertainty. But what if everything we have been taught about vulnerability is wrong? What if the very thing we fear revealing is actually the key to our greatest strength? What if hiding our vulnerability is not making us stronger, but weaker? Think about the people you truly admire. Not the ones who project an image of perfection, but the ones who move you, who inspire you, who make you feel something real. What is it about them that draws you in? It is not their invincibility, it is their humanity. It is their willingness to be open, to be real, to show the world who they truly are. Because deep down, we all know the truth. No one is invincible. No one is without fear. No one has it all figured out. The difference between those who live fully and those who live in fear is not that they are without weakness, it is that they have embraced it. They have stopped running from it. They have stopped pretending. And in doing so, they have found a power that most people will never know.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
But why do we fear vulnerability so much? Why do we go to such great lengths to hide it? The answer lies in one of the most fundamental aspects of human nature, the desire for acceptance. We are social creatures. We crave belonging. And somewhere along the way, we learned that to be accepted, we must be strong. We must be confident. We must never let anyone see the cracks in our armor. Because if they do, they might reject us. They might judge us. They might see us as weak. And so we build walls. We create masks. We present a version of ourselves that is carefully constructed to appear unbreakable. But in doing so, we disconnect from others. We isolate ourselves. We create a world where we are never truly seen, never truly known. And that is the real tragedy. Because what we are actually seeking, what we are truly longing for, is not admiration. It is connection. And connection cannot exist without vulnerability. Think about the moments in your life when you have felt the deepest connection to another person. Were they moments of strength, or were they moments of raw, unfiltered honesty? The times when someone looked at you and truly saw you, not just the image you project, but the real you. The times when you shared your fears, your struggles, your pain, and instead of being rejected, you were met with understanding, with compassion, with love. Those are the moments that matter. Those are the moments that remind us what it means to be human. And yet we continue to hide. We continue to pretend. We continue to wear the mask, fearing that if we take it off, everything will fall apart. But here's the truth. The mask is the thing that is holding you back. The mask is the thing that is keeping you small. The mask is the thing that is preventing you from experiencing life fully. Because vulnerability is not weakness. It is strength in its purest form. It is the courage to be seen. It is the willingness to stand in front of the world and say, "This is who I am, with all my flaws, with all my fears, with all my imperfections." And when you do that, something incredible happens. You free yourself. You free yourself from the exhausting effort of maintaining a facade. You free yourself from the fear of being found out. You free yourself from the illusion that you have to be perfect to be worthy. But let's go even deeper. What if I told you that not only is vulnerability powerful, but it is also necessary for growth? Because here's the thing, if you never allow yourself to be vulnerable, you never allow yourself to grow. Growth requires risk. It requires stepping into the unknown. It requires putting yourself in situations where you might fail, where you might be judged, where you might not be enough. And that is terrifying. But it is also the only path to becoming more than you are today. Every great achievement, every meaningful relationship, every profound transformation begins with vulnerability, with the willingness to take a step forward without knowing if you will succeed, with the willingness to open your heart without knowing if it will be broken, with the willingness to speak your truth without knowing if it will be accepted. So let me ask you, what are you hiding? What part of yourself have you locked away because you are afraid of what others will think? And more importantly, what has that fear cost you? How many opportunities have you missed because you were afraid of being seen? How many connections have you avoided because you were afraid of being hurt? How much of your life have you lived behind a mask, never allowing yourself to be fully known? And is that a price you are willing to keep paying? Because here's the reality, you can continue to hide. You can continue to protect yourself. You can continue to build walls so high that no one can ever touch you. But in doing so, you will also keep yourself from ever truly living. Or you can make a different choice. You can choose to step into your vulnerability. You can choose to be seen, to be known, to be real. And in doing so, you will discover a power you never knew you had. The power to live without fear. The power to connect without pretense. The power to be fully, unapologetically yourself. The strength in vulnerability. Why showing your true self makes you unstoppable. When we talk about strength, we often think of it in terms of dominance, control, and the ability to withstand pressure without bending. But real strength, the kind that changes lives, the kind that transforms not just individuals but entire societies, is something entirely different. Real strength is not about being unbreakable. It is about being unafraid to break. It is about recognizing that life will challenge you, that you will face rejection, failure, and pain, and yet choosing to show up anyway. Vulnerability is not the opposite of strength. It is the foundation of it. Because to be vulnerable is to be honest. And honesty, true, unfiltered honesty, is one of the rarest and most powerful forces in the world. Think about the people who have left the deepest impact on history. The revolutionaries, the visionaries, the ones who changed the way we see the world. Were they the ones who hid behind a facade of perfection? Were they the ones who played it safe, who never risked exposure, who never showed their fears? No, they were the ones who stood in front of the world, exposed, uncertain, open. They were the ones who dared to say, "This is what I believe, even if it makes me vulnerable. This is who I am, even if it makes me a target." And that is why they were unstoppable. Because they understood that their power did not come from pretending to be invincible. It came from embracing their humanity fully, without apology. But why is this so hard for most of us? Why do we go to such great lengths to hide our true selves? The answer is fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of judgment. Fear that if people see the real us, they will decide we are not enough. This fear is deep, primal, woven into the very fabric of our being. It is the fear of being cast out, of being alone. And so we adapt. We mold ourselves into what we think others want us to be. We suppress parts of ourselves that feel too risky to reveal. We build walls, thinking they will protect us. But in doing so, we do not just keep the world out, we trap ourselves inside. And here's the paradox: the very thing we fear, rejection, loneliness, disconnection, is the thing we create by hiding. When we refuse to be vulnerable, we make it impossible for others to truly know us. And if they do not know us, how can they truly love us? How can they truly connect with us? How can we ever feel the deep soul-level belonging that we all crave? The truth is, the walls we build to protect ourselves become our prison, and the only way to escape is to let them fall. But here's where it gets even deeper. Vulnerability is not just about personal relationships. It is about every aspect of life. It is about leadership. It is about creativity. It is about success. Because the people who achieve the most, the ones who create the most, the ones who lead the most effectively, are not the ones who hide behind a mask of invulnerability. They are the ones who take risks. They are the ones who put their ideas into the world, even when they are unsure how they will be received. They are the ones who admit when they do not have all the answers, who are willing to fail in front of others, who are willing to be seen in all their imperfection. And that is why they succeed, because they are willing to go where others are too afraid to go. Think about it. Every great artist, every great entrepreneur, every great leader has had to face the fear of vulnerability. They have had to put themselves out there, knowing that they might be criticized, knowing that they might be misunderstood, knowing that they might fail spectacularly. But they did it anyway, and that is why they are remembered. That is why they made an impact. Because they understood that the alternative, staying safe, staying hidden, staying small, was not really living at all. But let's take this even further. What if I told you that vulnerability is not just about external success, but about inner peace? Because here's something most people never realize: the more you hide, the more you suffer. The more you suppress, the more anxiety you create. The more you pretend to be something you are not, the more disconnected you become from yourself. And that disconnection is the root of so much unhappiness. Because when you are not being yourself, when you are constantly filtering, constantly calculating, constantly trying to fit into an image that is not truly you, life becomes exhausting. It becomes empty. It becomes a performance that never ends. But when you embrace vulnerability, when you stop hiding, when you allow yourself to be exactly who you are without fear, something incredible happens. The anxiety fades. The exhaustion disappears. The weight that you have been carrying, often for years, sometimes for a lifetime, lifts. And in its place, there is freedom. Freedom to speak your truth. Freedom to pursue what actually matters to you. freedom to live without the constant fear of being found out. And that kind of freedom is priceless. So let me ask you, what would happen if you stopped hiding? What would happen if you stopped pretending to be invincible? What would happen if you let yourself be seen fully, completely, without apology? Yes, some people might reject you. Yes, some people might judge you. But those people were never meant for you anyway. And the people who truly matter, the ones who see you, the ones who understand you, the ones who will stand by you, no matter what, those are the ones who will finally be able to find you. Because here's the final truth. The world does not need more perfect people. It does not need more masks. It does not need more carefully curated, polished versions of humanity. What it needs is realness. What it needs is honesty. What it needs is people who are willing to stand up and say, "This is me." Not perfect, not unbreakable, but real. Because when you do that, you give others permission to do the same. And that is how change happens. That is how revolutions begin. That is how lives are transformed. The ultimate power, how owning your vulnerability makes you unstoppable. Imagine a life where you no longer have to pretend. A life where you no longer have to filter your words, calculate your actions, or live in fear of what others might think. Imagine waking up every day knowing that you are fully, unapologetically yourself, and that nothing, no opinion, no judgment, no criticism can shake you. That is the power of embracing vulnerability. It is the kind of power that cannot be taken away because it does not come from external validation. It comes from within. It comes from the deep, unshakable knowing that you are enough, exactly as you are. But to reach that level of freedom, you must be willing to do something most people will never do. You must be willing to own every part of yourself, the light and the dark, the strength and the weakness, the confidence and the doubt. You must be willing to stop running from yourself. Because here's the truth, the parts of yourself that you hide, the parts that you are ashamed of, the parts that you wish you could erase, those are the parts that make you human. And the more you try to suppress them, the more they control you. Have you ever noticed that the things we try hardest to hide are the things that seem to define us the most? The insecurities we fight against, the fears we refuse to acknowledge, the emotions we push down, they do not disappear. They grow. They manifest in ways we do not expect. They turn into anxiety, into self-doubt, into patterns of self-sabotage. The more you resist vulnerability, the more it controls every aspect of your life without you even realizing it. But when you stop resisting, when you allow yourself to be vulnerable, something incredible happens. The fear loses its power. The shame dissolves. The things that once felt unbearable to admit become just another part of your story. And in doing so, you realize something profound. You were never broken. You were never lacking. You were never unworthy. The only thing that was ever wrong was the belief that you had to hide to be accepted. And once you let go of that belief, you become unstoppable. Because when you no longer fear being seen, when you no longer fear being judged, when you no longer fear being rejected, there is nothing left to hold you back. But let's take this even further. Vulnerability is not just about personal growth. It is not just about freeing yourself from fear. It is about something even bigger. It is about changing the way we relate to one another. Because when one person has the courage to be fully authentic, it creates a ripple effect. When you are vulnerable, you give others permission to be vulnerable too. You create space for real conversations, for real relationships, for real human connection. And in a world where so many people feel isolated, where so many people are starving for authenticity, that is one of the most powerful things you can do. Think about the last time someone shared something deeply personal with you, something real, something raw, something they did not have to share. How did it make you feel? Did you judge them? Or did you feel closer to them? Did it make you think less of them? Or did it make you admire their courage? We spend so much time fearing that our vulnerability will push people away, but in reality, it is what draws people in. It is what makes us relatable, what makes us human. And yet most people will spend their entire lives avoiding it, never realizing that by doing so, they are also avoiding the very thing they crave the most, real connection. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Vulnerability is not just about emotions. It is also about action. It is about the willingness to take risks, to step into the unknown, to pursue what truly matters to you, even when there is no guarantee of success. Because let's be real, every dream worth chasing requires vulnerability. Every great achievement, every bold move, every leap of faith demands that you put yourself in a position where you might fail, where you might be criticized, where you might fall flat on your face. And if you are unwilling to be vulnerable, you will never take those risks. You will stay in the comfort zone, in the realm of the known, in the illusion of safety. But safety is not the same as freedom. Comfort is not the same as fulfillment. And if you are unwilling to be vulnerable, you will never truly live. So let me ask you, what is the thing that you have been avoiding because it makes you feel vulnerable? What is the dream you have not pursued because you are afraid of failing? What is the truth you have not spoken because you are afraid of how others will react? And more importantly, how much longer are you willing to let that fear control you? Because here's the reality, the fear will not go away. The doubt will not disappear overnight. But courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward despite it. And if you can make that decision, if you can choose to step into your vulnerability instead of running from it, you will unlock a level of power that most people will never know. Because here's the ultimate truth. Vulnerability is not something to be avoided. It is something to be mastered. It is something to be wielded like a weapon, something to be embraced as a source of strength. The people who change the world are not the ones who hide. They are the ones who dare to be seen. The ones who dare to speak. The ones who dare to take risks, to fail, to get back up again. And if you want to live fully, if you want to experience the depth, the richness, the beauty of life, you must be willing to do the same. So now, I leave you with one final challenge. The next time you feel the impulse to hide, to hold back, to protect yourself, pause. Take a breath and ask yourself, what would happen if I did not hide? What would happen if I chose to be real instead? What would happen if I allowed myself to be seen exactly as I am? Because that is where your power lies. Not in perfection, not in invincibility, but in the courage to be fully, unapologetically yourself. And once you embrace that, once you stop hiding, once you stop pretending, once you stop living in fear, nothing will ever be able to stop you again.